Right now on Upfront.
48 hours to go.
We're going to have a big election. We're going to have a big victory.
Super Tuesday, front and center. But is it already over?
I think it's time to unite. He's going to be the nominee.
This weekend, the campaign's already looking to the general and must-win states like Wisconsin. This Sunday, the battleground. The urgent behind-the-scenes efforts underway. Our guest, Trump campaign national spokesperson Karoline Leavitt and Biden campaign advisory board member Malcolm Kenyatta.
Then transmission turmoil. The behind-the-scenes drama unfolding in the state Senate. One floor session left, the vote count still underway. Is it going to get to a floor vote on the Senate? Do you have the votes?
You know, we're still working on it.
The controversial bill involving power lines and how much you may pay. Ellen Nowak with the American Transmission Company on the high stakes stays ahead.
And electric charge.
It's a tourism issue. Workforce issue.
The new legislation just steps away from creating a new network of charging stations statewide. State Representative Nancy Vandermeer on the impact just moments away.
This is Upfront with Jaron Jordan and political director Matt Smith.
Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining us. In just 48 hours, Super Tuesday will be underway. More than a third of all Republican delegates up for grabs in 15 states.
But the attention is already shifting to the general in key battlegrounds like Wisconsin, the Biden campaign, and First Lady Jill Biden here in Wisconsin this weekend. Vice President Kamala Harris scheduled in Madison Wednesday. And preparations for the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee in full swing. We're going to get to it all today. We begin with Karoline Leavitt, the National Press Secretary for the Trump campaign. Karoline, good to see you. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks so much for having me, guys. We appreciate it.
Let's first look to Tuesday. What does former President Trump need to do Tuesday night in terms of numbers and percentages?
Well, President Trump needs to do exactly what he's done in the past few early primary states, which is win. And we are going to do that. We're 100% confident we will sweep Super Tuesday, and then we'll be very close to achieving the necessary amount of delegates that President Trump needs to be the official Republican nominee. He's had big victories everywhere from Iowa to Nikki Haley's home state of South Carolina. And that's why we have already shifted gears to focus on the general election in November. This is the most important election in a generation. We need to win. We need to beat Joe Biden. President Trump is fighting every single day to do so. So we'll be coming to Wisconsin. We'll be coming to battleground states like Pennsylvania and Michigan in the next several months to prove that President Trump is the leader that the American public need to get this country back on track.
Karoline, I want to play some comments here from Nikki Haley looking ahead to the general and even key states like Wisconsin. She said this past week. Take a listen.
I think you look at any of the early states. Yes, he won those. I give him that. But he did not get 40% of the Republican primary vote. You can't win a general election without the 40%. But look at the polls. The Marquette poll came out last week. I mean, in all the polls, he's down by 5. He's down by 7. Marquette had a margin of error. I defeat Joe Biden by 18 points.
So to that point, she has a much greater lead over former President Donald Trump, even in a hypothetical head-to-head matchup with President Biden here in Wisconsin.
Well, first of all, that's one poll of many. There are far more polls showing President Trump beating Joe Biden in Wisconsin and in many other battleground states across this country, and also in national polling as well. To Nikki Haley's specific comments about the Republican Party, you can't win a general election if you don't have the majority support of your own voters, and Nikki Haley clearly does not have that. She has no mathematical pathway to the Republican nomination. Her campaign is at this point an utter waste of time and resources. So we're going to, again, focus our energy on winning over independents, winning over key demographics in swing states like yours of Wisconsin, so that we can defeat Joe Biden in November.
And to that, Nikki Haley wrote in the Chicago Tribune Friday morning, Trump is dividing our country when we need to unite. He calls his opponents venom. He threatens people who don't support him. He has driven away suburban voters, contributing to Republican losses in 18, 20, and 22. I'm curious to that point about independent and swing voters in key states like Wisconsin. What is the plan to win those voters back?
There's a very simple question that we will continue to pose to independent voters who may not know who they're going to vote for in November. And that is this. Are you better off today, or were you better off 4 years ago under the Trump administration?
Trump again Thursday night talked about abortion in an interview on Fox. I'm curious, is he backing a 15-week ban, or where does he stand right now on that?
No, he was very clear last night in the town hall, and he's been consistent always that he has not decided or committed to a number of weeks on this issue. He's proud of his Supreme Court justices that overturned Roe v. Wade and returned this issue back to the states where it belongs, to those that make laws closest to the people. And that's why you've seen states take respective actions based on their state legislature and what the people in those states want. And so President Trump supports that. That's where he believes this decision belongs. Now, he has said he would entertain a discussion on a certain amount of weeks, but he has not committed to that at all. And right now, he's happy with where this decision lies, and that's with the states.
Karoline Leavitt, National Press Secretary for the Trump campaign. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Vice President Kamala Harris will be in Madison Wednesday, just hours after Super Tuesday, and ahead of President Biden's State of the Union address Thursday. This past week, the Biden campaign hosted several private events focused on energizing Wisconsin's black vote, a key demographic for Democrats. Malcolm Kenyatta is a member of the Biden campaign National Advisory Board and a state representative in Pennsylvania. Welcome to Upfront.
Happy to be here. Happy to be here.
Thanks for being here. So let's talk about Super Tuesday and the expectations going into Super Tuesday. What does President Joe Biden need to do?
You know, he needs to do what he's continued to do throughout this campaign. You saw him break 90% in South Carolina primary. Even in New Hampshire was just he did not campaign. Even in New Hampshire, the write-in effort blew past all the expectations there. The president has a real record of getting things done for real people in their real lives. And I think what you're going to see in the Super Tuesday states, and Pennsylvania will come right after that, is people showing up, beating all the punditry and the expectations to put the president in a position to finish the work that he's done.
And to the pundits that you just hit on, I want to ask you about Michigan that we saw this past week. Some 100,000 Democrats, about 13% voting uncommitted in battleground states. You know, that would be a seismic number if that happened in the fall. How concerned is the campaign by this?
You know, the first thing I'll say is, unlike the Republican Party, this president wants to hear everybody, wants to hear everybody's voice. It is not unheard of for folks to vote uncommitted in these contests. I guess it was 10 or 11% when President Obama ran for re-election. But what we saw was an overwhelming victory for the president in the state of Michigan. And whether it's Wisconsin or Michigan or Pennsylvania, these are states that have always been close. And the president's going to go out and make his case.
You're here in Milwaukee this week, also traveling across the state of Wisconsin, meeting with lawmakers, local organizations as well, speaking specifically about the black vote and the importance of the black vote. What's the goal of your trip here this week?
To make those connections. First and foremost, to listen. When the president asked me to be on the National Advisory Committee, one of the things that we wanted to make sure that we were doing is what I mentioned before, going everywhere, talking to everybody, and doing what the president does so well. You have to listen as well as lead. And I think there are a lot of the president's accomplishments that I'm going to be excited to talk about and hear on the ground the difference that it's making in people's lives.
When we look at what happens come November, we know that Wisconsin is obviously a battleground state, a state that could decide this presidential election. How crucial is that black vote going to be?
It's going to be absolutely pivotal. We're not going to take anybody for granted. You have to show up everywhere, ask people for their vote, ask them for their support, and that's certainly what I'm going to be here doing for the next 2 days.
And to that, the latest Marquette Law School poll provides some insight on where black voters here in Wisconsin are at the moment, right now. In a hypothetical Trump-Biden matchup, Biden 54, Trump 24, not decided 22. So there's 46% of black voters who say either Trump or they're not decided. Why do you think that is?
You know what? Listen, I don't spend a lot of time looking at polls. The polls show you one thing, but what we have to look at is the results of actual elections. And when we look at the elections, special election after special election after special election, Democrats have done a lot better than any of the polls said.
Is this a challenge, though?
I think every single day you wake up and you ask people for their votes. This is what I understand. This is going to be a close election no matter what way you slice it. I think this campaign understands that. The president understands it. But what I'm confident about is the president has a message that will resonate with folks because it's a message that's about building on the success that we've seen in this administration.
Malcolm Kenyatta, member of the Biden Campaign National Advisory Board, state rep from Pennsylvania in Wisconsin for a few days. Malcolm, thank you so much for your time and stopping in.
Thank you, man. Thank you, Jared.
Up next, the battle lines over power lines, the drama and debate inside the Capitol over the right of first refusal, what it all means, and the intense lobbying underway next.